you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hello, everyone. Welcome to V to Premium Transitions, the show where I get a guest. We tell you how to take a deck in V Premium and convert it to Premium with as few steps as possible. Now, this being Nubatama, I had to go pretty far afield, so I'm here with Vysus. How are you, sir?
Hello. We're doing fine, I think.
Yeah, and you're an animated model, so that's...
Apparently so.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what we got going on here for the V version of the deck?
So, everyone knows Hanzo, if they play Nubatama. It's kind of popular, go figure. The general principle of Hanzo is you're playing around grade zeros. Grade zeros are your fodder, they can also be your boosters, or in this case, they can also be an attacker. There's two ways to go with Hanzo. One is with Mizukaze as a finisher, and the other is, and this is how we're going to focus it, based around Hagagure.
Okay.
This is a very curious grade zero. Notice its stats.
It's 4,000 power and 0 shield?
Yeah, those are not standard figures, are they?
No, they're not.
The trick is, when this card is played, it imitates the power or shield, well, and shield actually,
Okay.
of another target on the field. We're going to spend the entire game plan abusing this ability. General plan is, turn 1, your best ride is Stealth Dragon Unen. You have 2 Hanzos in the deck. Those are your only 2 grade 3s. Now, you might have one, but not the other. This will fix that problem, especially since you only ever want to ride Evil Stealth Dragon Akatsuki Hanzo. If you ride the other Hanzo, which is Tasagare Hanzo, you're not in a good position because this does not do anything on your own turn. So even though you have 8 grade 3s, you actually only have 4 ride targets. Back to Unen, there's one additional problem with the Heel Guardian. It might be a grade 3, but you have to reveal a grade 3 normal unit for Unen's ability. So it can be a bit rough at times. Evil Stealth Dragon Yamishibuki. It's your only other grade 2. It also gains power. This one gains power for each of your grade 0s rather than through its own internal ability, but hey. Do you know what happens to be a grade 0?
Those evil tokens. And that thing. Oh, goddamn. Alright. That's,
It gains plus 5,000 power for every grade 0. It creates its own grade 0s because it creates evil decoys. But it's also a continuous ability, which means it updates instantaneously.
Ah.
So, you call a grade 0, that 9,000 is 14. You suddenly have 2 14k units on the field.
That's hitting magic numbers against Force. That's pretty cool.
Yep. You create a lane of Hagagure and Yamishibuki, and you got 28. Meanwhile, against grade 2s, you're hitting for 14, which, okay, against Force, that's not a magic number, but against a fellow Protect or an opposing Axel.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're hitting a magic number. And that's going to be the general idea here. Everything is focused around magic numbers.
So because continuous effects work the way they do, where the second the condition is met, it's just online. It's not like you have to wait for a specific time or thing to happen. It's just, if you're in this game state, it's on, baby. It allows you to just hit for these strong lanes without really a lot of effort. Yeah, so for Yamishibuki, where you bounce something to create tokens, that's kind of a non-cost, isn't it?
It's not really a cost at all.
Yeah.
The only thing that might be considered a, quote, cost is the one card that you can end up bouncing doesn't have its own shield value.
Right.
So if you lose your field, this card ain't doing much. Not without doubly committing. We have many other ways of making grade 0s. We have Evil Stealth Dragon, Kagashi. Oh, you know when I was talking about even we don't get the names right?
Kagasarashi?
Kagashirashi is close enough.
Okay, alright.
But this is a consistency piece for Hanzo. So long as your Vanguard is a Hanzo, you can put a card from your hand to your soul, which allows you to get another Hanzo. You kind of want to do that because you need to load your soul with Tasagares. And that is after it's made 2 decoy tokens, which, funny enough, you need those for the Katsuki Hanzo as well.
Is that why there's not like a top 5 grade 3 searcher to get like the correct Hanzo?
There isn't really the space for it because, well, we're using this. This was a promo card for a while. A very hard to obtain promo card because, hello English Bushiro distribution. Yes, I will put that complaint in there once I have my shot.
Yeah.
But it was released in Kind Collection, so it's now easily accessible.
That's good.
Has 2 abilities. One is when it's bounced, and one is in the drop. We're more bothered about the one for when it bounces for keeping things simple. So, when it's returned to the hand from a rear guard, you use one of your soul that ideally isn't Tasagari Hanzo, and you get 2 additional evil decoy tokens, which is perfect because you want to use Evil Stealth Dragon Akatsuki Hanzo, do a bit of a board wipe, still have evil decoy tokens, so that then when you start attacking with Akatsuki Hanzo, who will be at 32,000, you're able to create Tasagari Hanzos at 32,000. That 32,000 number I mentioned? Geez, I wonder how else we might be able to make use of that.
Keeps coming back, doesn't it? That's
It keeps coming back to Hagagure, a bit of a pet favorite. But there's just one other card we've not really touched on here at all. Countercharge, a cycle, and an 11k booster. So 32 and 11.
43. Numbers.
Bingo!
Hooray. I'm good at math.
We like numbers.
Yeah. And then I also noticed that it's 12 crit with the Sentinel crit instead of draw PGs. I assume because it's protect?
Not just because it's protect. Tasagare Hanzo, whilst you want it in your soul, it does have an ability in your hand. At the beginning of the opponent's turn, which is the most awkward timing in the game for any ability ever, the amount of time the opponent goes, stand, draw, right. Actually, I had an ability before you did any of that.
Yeah, that's some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff right there. That's awkward.
So you discard 2 cards. You then ride this. So you get your normal ride, which gives you your 1 protect marker. And then you get a superior ride in at the start of your opponent's turn. You now have 2 protect markers. So you've got 2 perfect cards, whilst your early game is covered by 30k crit sense.
Okay, so so you're not really using the evil decoy tokens for their intercept ability. Because I've seen some Nubatama builds where they'll use Protect 2 and then they just put it in the back and then stack so they can like intercept with a decoy token for however much.
You can go both ways with it, to be fair. It's just that this way round, because you've sacrificed your perfect guards in the deck, you might want to get those from the ability of the Hanzo. Plus, there's also a part where you are discarding 2 cards in order to superior ride anyway, so you want that card back in your hand, so instead of being a -3, because you are losing another card from riding, to be fair, it's reduced to being a -2.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
And as for the evil decoys, they are vulnerable. They are far too prone to being wiped out off the field before you actually use them. When you're most likely to be able to use them is, and meaningfully at this, is during the grade 2 game. Once you're in grade 3, either they're getting wiped out, or things are hitting for so high in power that they're not going to cover you, even if you have Protect 2 and Hanzo's own plus 5,000 shield on top of it.
Gotcha.
So
okay, that makes sense.
Maths-wise, it doesn't work out to use them as intercepts in the late game. To be fair, the evil decoys are mostly a resource more so than an actual valuable unit. They're not plan tokens.
Right. They're not I don't really play Neo Nectar either. Watch the Neo Nectar video too after this one. That's got Commander Jaime in it. But
yes, he most certainly knows his stuff.
yeah,
Multiple taps to prove it.
that's true. All right, so why don't we take a look at this premium list then? Because I think Nubatama has just always been a very underrated clan. Like both ninja clans, even like you still see like Murakumo is eking out a top every now and again at the time of recording this, and like people are just not paying attention. So what's changed here?
We kept the name. It's still the big zero. I wonder why.
That's true.
So we've lost Magatsu Gale.
Okay.
In Magatsu's Gale place, we have gained Blaze Maiden Tanya from the D-Series card pool. Well, Blaze Maiden Tanya's ability is the one that we care about. When placed on a rearguard circle, counterblast 1 to revive a grade 0 from a drop. I wonder what we're reviving.
So it's the same basic game plan, right? It's still the Hanzo stuff. It's still your evil decoy tokens that you're, blowing up and all that sort of stuff, and your key gets huge. Is there anything I'm missing here?
We've gained another card from the D-Series support pool. This card will never miss. It will always hit a target. It might not hit your optimal target, but it will always hit a target because top 7 search, take a stealth card from your deck and put it into the soul. You don't care what it is as long as it's not a trigger. And it's always going to hit something because all your units
have stealth in them.
Has stealth. Ideally, you want to target Tasagare Hanzo, get that into the soul. It's just another way of doing that. It's more consistency in that direction. But even if it misses your primary target, you're still winning because you get deck compression, and deck thinning is deck winning. Everyone knows this. Meanwhile, countercharge option has changed to a different card from the V-Series card pool. Because we aren't using Gale, and Sakura Fubuki is best used when in partnership with Magatsu Gale, because it just allows that to extend further. But since we're not using Magatsu Gale, well, we've swapped out Sakura Fubuki because we're in the premium format now. This card is a 7,000 power base. It can swing under most 8k grade 1 rides, which might be relevant. Damage denial is a thing in this format.
And then I'm guessing because it's also like a deck that can bounce its own stuff, you don't care that it's a 2 of?
Not really, because if you ride it, you've only got 1 left. But you only need to use it once anyway.
Okay.
Because, and we'll come back to this, because context is clarified later through the stride zone, but the only other changes are in the trigger lineup, and ratios as a whole are a bit different. But we've got D-Series draw trigger, because 10,000 shield on a draw trigger, usually the expected return of a draw trigger is 15. Well, because this is 5,000 shield itself, the expected return is actually 20.
And then I'm guessing the draw PGs are because it's in general a higher pressure format?
Yep. You can't afford to run the crit sentinels in premium format because everything just swings way too big. So you have to go in with a different mentality, a different game plan altogether. Don't get me wrong. We're still aiming for magic numbers, but you gotta decide when are you going to go for full-on aggro and when you're going to take more of a defensive stance. And with the crit triggers being as heavy as they were in the previous build, you didn't really have that much of a choice. It was more aggro leaning to start with. Coming down to the G zone, the main cannon...
Rakudo Demonic Dragon Jaco Meso.
It's a good job I know what this card is without having to read the screen, isn't it? So, when it attacks, retire 2 grade 0s and draw 2 cards. Well, you also flip a card in the G zone, but we kind of expect that in most cases anyway. Either way, you draw 2 cards, return all rear guards to your hand, and then you can call 2 cards. If you do, gain 10,000 and a crit for this particular unit. The funny thing here is it says when it attacks.
Swing with Vanguard, kill your 2 evil tokens, bounce your field, call 2 more things. or on the sides, and then 5 attacks, and doesn't require a counterblast, which means that even if they're damage denying you, you can still like put the pressure on, which a lot of decks can't really boast for a lot of their first strides.
Well, it's a nice bit of aggression and a nice bit of attrition because it gives you resources as well. The main way of using this to full potential is this has to be one of your targets on the field because you return all your grade 0s to the field. Well, you return all your units to your hand. But then, this creates 2 more grade 0 evil decoys on your field, which means, because you're still in the timing, you can trigger Tasagari Hanzo, call 2 Tasagari Hanzos out where those tokens are.
That's pretty cool. I'm surprised that didn't miss the timing. Well, because it's the stack, so you go, okay, that dude first, get your tokens, and then...
Meanwhile, if you call Tanya, or you just directly call Hagagure, you get Hagagures, which now copy a stat of 37,000. So you've got the big 0, quite literally.
That's pretty dope. And that's your first stride.
That's not just your first stride, that is just your main cannon in general.
Okay.
Whereas if you have Counterblast, you have access to other strides. If you have 1 Counterblast, you can either go Shiranui Rene, which if you played Darren G era or you played through most of Premium and you've faced against Nubatama, you will have seen this card. You will hate this card. I can guarantee it.
This card was so good, and it was such a ruling's nightmare that it's one of the things that turned people off of Premium, or it turned people off of G near the end. It was a combination of the Bermuda set just being absolutely broken, and this people being like, what? How does this work? I don't understand with timing. Is it theirs? Is it mine? I'm done with this. Goodbye.
Meanwhile, when you're a judge, this kind of card appeals to you. Because it's ruling nightmare, so it means you're actually in the job.
Oh, so you get to feel useful.
I'd hate to feel useless.
Right, of course.
Anyway, Counterblast 1, Persona G. Am I the only one that uses that term? I don't know. But Persona G, and then you take 2 cards from your opponent's hand, the opponent's choice, and they call them to the field. You attack them with their own cards. Yes, they get plus 5,000 power if you're in Generation Break 3, which I'm just going to expect that most people at least know what Generation Break 3 is if they're looking at this series.
Yeah. I guess the point of the series is for people who only play V. So Generation Break 3 is if you have 3 or more cards face up in G zone or on your Vanguard circle. So if you G-Dart once and then go into this where he flips a copy of himself, that's 3. Because it's the 2 you have face up in G-Zone, the G-Dart and the copy of him, and then the 1 on Vanguard circle.
An apt explanation. Anyway, for this card, you don't really use it unless it's in Generation Break 3. Because we have a distinct lack of crit in this deck.
Gotcha.
It just so happens that this card allows you to close the damage gap.
Right.
Because you call those 2 units, they each have 2 crit. Well, that's 4 critical on the board before you even do any attacks. So, hey ho, you better get guarding, opponent.
Yeah, and it's also ripping 2 cards out of their hand. One thing you can do if you're the opponent in this case is have an order be the card, because you call it to rear and then it poofs into nothing.
The same is true for protect markers.
Really? Okay, that's good to know.
It used to be the fact that a protect marker would just stay in your hand, you couldn't call it, but they changed that to align with order cards.
I think they should, just for the sake of, you still have to lose the card, right? That's still worth it. It's just you also keep the attack from being a problem. Speaking of closing the gap, I don't know which one you were going to go to next, but I think it ties in well with the Shiranui Rene. What's the one that binds their whole hand or something?
I was actually going to finish with that one.
Oh, okay.
Because that actually costs more counterblast.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going through the 1 counterblast cards at the moment.
Gotcha.
And then we're going to get counterblast 2. Which the counterblast 2 comment is also relevant to that 1 grade 1 we were on earlier.
Right.
So, Rikudo Stealth Rogue Yatsuka Lord is our other Counterblast 1 stride in the G zone. I'll be honest, it's mainly in here because it's from the latest premium collection, so it's easy to get hold of.
Does it really do anything in particular that's like good for the day, or are you just like, whatever?
Well, if you need cards in your hand, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, target 3 cards in your opponent's drop zone. They have a choice. They can either call those cards or not. If they call them, they discard. If they don't call them, you draw cards. Now, if the opponent doesn't actually have 3 targets in their drop zone, you still chose 3 targets. They just can't call 3 targets because there wasn't 3 cards to call. So, in that situation, you automatically draw X, where X is the number of cards that they didn't have in their drop zone up to 3.
Okay, and then your front row gets 10k for each thing.
For each card that they did not call, you draw a card, and all your front row gets plus 10,000.
Very Narukami-esque. It's is there a specific scenario where this is like the best answer, or
if you have, it works as a first stride mainly. If you have the counterblast, the opponent hasn't actually given anything for you in the graveyard, so it's like, you know what? I could either go +2 with Yakomeso, or I could go +3 with Yatsuka Lord and get 30,000 power on my field to front row. And that is before you even attack with your Vanguard, which brings out 32s. So in that situation, you can go 33, 33, 33, 32, 32, or
if however much your triggers are, right?
Basically.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got its place then. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if you have no counterblast, you also have another stride for no counterblast. Albeit this one takes soul, and you do need to be on Generation Break 2. But if you're in a position where you have no counterblast and the opponent has a very threatening board presence and you just need to get it gone, Shiranui Mukuro is a stride once, wipe out that board, and hope they don't realize the ruling on it has changed.
What's changed about the ruling?
There was a time when you couldn't guard this card because you didn't control a Vanguard. As under the rules as of version 4.0, which was when current standard D series was brought in, a certain part of the rules was omitted, and now basically you can guard this card, so it isn't a guaranteed board wipe like it used to be.
Here's the thing. So you can't G-guard because
you can't G-guard, no.
Yeah, because you don't control a Vanguard that's grade 3 or greater.
But for all normal guarding, it doesn't have to reference a Vanguard grade at all. So you don't even need a Vanguard.
Yes. That being said, most of the time, you are just letting your board get wiped. I don't think I've seen a single instance of somebody being like, I gotta protect that. No, just you let your board die, let them have, because they're getting what is essentially quad drive by having the drive check stolen by Mukuro. Sorry,
quintuple drive.
Yeah, and then your triple drive from Mukuro itself. This serves a very effective niche, and
however,
but
for that 5 drive checks, you are discarding 1 card as well.
Right. Most restands involve I don't know, drive -2 or discarding 2 cards or what. Most things for a restand cost more than what Mukuro is giving you, so I'll still count it as a win.
Oh, it's still a win.
Yeah.
It can just be a bit awkward to actually use it at times, but hey, when you do need to use it, you know you need to use it.
Right.
Meanwhile, we have one final stride. This is your kill card. Rikudo Stealth Dragon Sukamoya-kan. Generation Break 2, so You can only use this very much into the late game, but when you do, it's Counterblast 2 on place. The timing of that is specifically why. So let me paint you a picture. It's the opponent's turn. They're attacking. You have 0 Counterblast open, but you do have a damage on board. The opponent is swinging with the intent of only poking you for that 1 damage, because they happen to know what this card is capable of. You commit to a partial guard. You countercharge, and you still allow them to hit so long as it's not lethal. Or, if it would be a lethal attack, you just go for the full guard anyway. But in that scenario, you don't use this.
Right.
The main point is, you're going for a partial guard, you've opened up that counterblast, they've given you the extra damage, you now have 2 counterblast. Well, thanks for that, because now, opponent, you only have 4 cards for this turn.
Yeah. This closes the gap so effectively. Like, as somebody who has just gotten absolutely dunked on by this thing, it's not fun, and you always have to be wary of giving a Nubatama player not too much damage at a time, or being so far ahead in damage that you're just like, all right, I guess I can just take however many attacks and then can PG the Vanguard and be fine, or whatever. It reminds me of whenever we get to Angel Feather and that purple hair stride is going to come up, where like it can take a large delta between the Angel Feather player and the opponent, or in this case the Nubatama player, where it just closes the gap so quick, right? It removes a lot of like card advantage as a factor.
So, here's a question for you. When you have 4 cards left in hand, how much shield value do you tend to have on average?
It's usually a PG, a thing to discard for a PG, and then 2 heal guards if I have them. That's like the best case scenario. But that obviously not always the case. So I think.
So let's say 30,000 and a perfect guard.
Yeah, something like
Well, you strode this. We stride power plus heart power 27. Let me just call my little friend here.
Yeah, that really does. Like something's gonna hit, you know.
The plan, you go 27, 27. Well, I say 27. It's probably boosting this, to be fair, by this point.
Yeah.
So more like 37, a 27, or whatever it's boosting. And then this comes in to really dig it in. They will be at least 5 attacks, and they will be with power. And you only have 4 cards. Good luck.
Yeah. Something's gonna hit that turn. So just be careful if you're playing against Nubatama.
But we do have to survive to that point. So, of course, we've got our heal guards. For grade 1, grade 2, you use them as a heal guard. For grade 3, they're extra stride fodder, or, because this is a premium format, we have green cards down here. What are those?
Yep.
G Guardians. Our G Guardian options are... Does the opponent have 6 cards in hand? Well, even if they only have 3 cards in hand, it's 20k. If they have 6 cards in hand, hello, 30,000 shield.
For free. Good stuff.
For free. Another oldie, we have Rakudo Stealth Dragon Gehurokan. This steals one of the opponent's units whilst they're attacking. However, this little bit of board wipe is probably one of the weakest in the game. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Pop a grade 1 in the back row specifically. I mean, okay, you use this as a shield for yourself for that 1 attack, but still, a grade 1 in the back row. That is so precise, but it is so easy to play around.
On the plus side, usually a lot of grade 1s are 10k shields, so it's not a complete slouch, but it's whatever.
Well, if the opponent has a vital grade 1 combo piece, or just a threatening on hit, or threatening end of battle, or whatever it is, it's important, you need it gone, well, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
We have Generation Break 1 G Guardian. It can be a 35,000 shield, but that's only if the opponent chooses to not discard a card.
That is typically what people decide to do, though, unless like that swing is going to kill you right then. But yeah, most of the time they're just going to be like, take your 20k shield, it's fine.
Yeah, the point here being that as far as G-Guard options go, we're not in the best camp, but we do have a new tool from Premium Collection 2022, and that is Rikudo's Stealth Rogue, Moreo Lord. It does require a counterblast, so it can be awkward, but I think we can deal with that. Anyway, you were saying?
Just like getting 5k for every card in your opponent's hand is very easy and good.
Yes, and if it's not going to be a big shield, well, it's going to get you economy another way, because it's going to make sure you get a card out of it.
Right.
It's either going to be a 35,000 shield minimum, or if I'm 30,000 or lower, here, just have a card. It'll make up the difference.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's not Royal... Like, you guys aren't Royal Paladin or Aquaforce bad, but it's fine.
It works.
Yeah. And then, of course, as always, these both of these deck logs are going to be in the description if you want to go take a look for yourself for more info. Did you have... Vysus, thanks for coming on and teaching us about Nubatama, because I didn't know anything.
It's okay. I probably still missed something in my ramblings. I always do.
It's fine. I'll have a link to, where to follow you and all that stuff, but is there anything you wanted to, shout out or plug for yourself? Or
any idea when this will be up?
This will be up not this Friday, not the following Friday, but the Friday after, close to Thanksgiving, I think.
26th, 27th. I'm just checking a date on something here right now.
Okay. Why? Is there some promo that's dropping or something? Or?
There might be something to shout out. I just can't remember the date of it, and that's really bad considering I'm involved in the organization of it.
The 18th. That's when it's dropping.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Tournament links. There we are. It's 12th and 13th. Yeah, this will release after that has passed, so no point shouting it out.
Bummer. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Leave a like. Tell me what clan you want to see me cover next, because slowly closing the gap on everything. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, At.
Bye.